So let's talk about President Myers. Now, we start off the Phantom Liberty, where she essentially, slight spoiler, but not really, but her aircraft crashes into the ground. President Myers, this is her shown on the screen right now. She falls from the sky after getting blown up with a missile, crashes into the ground. All of her crew is dead. Everybody. Smoked, crushed, bodies on the ground, blood everywhere, guts on the ground. Before that, V is tasked to come get her. Keep in mind, V slaughters like 50 mercs, just kills all of them in Dogtown. But when V finally gets to President Meyer, what happens? President Meyer gets like a surprise attack on V. Now, V can react by grabbing the gun and punching her in the face. But for some reason, President Myers just easily overpowers V. She has no injury. There's nothing wrong with her. She's just perfectly fine. I'm just like, V is the strongest character in the whole universe. Yeah, she, whichever V you're playing as, just got just straight up bullied, like instantly. Okay, we can argue that maybe President Myers has some kind of cyberware that makes her super strong. Okay, sure. Maybe the US government probably has something like that that nobody else has. Fine, whatever. It's believable, but it's still kind of weird how this just happened in this way when it was like a clear 1-on-1 or 1v1. And again, she had no injury. Nothing was wrong with her. Perfectly fine. Clean suit and everything on top of that. It was kind of wild. Um, I'm not done with Defending Liberty, but it just seemed kind of unrealistic to me. Maybe there is something that's gonna be some kind of crazy twist later. Who knows, right? It's this whole story seems fake to me. And this is my first time ever playing the game and I'm playing it blind. So don't yell at me later. Maybe I'm seeing things in such a way that just don't stand out because it's purposely written that way. I don't know yet. We'll see what happens. But let's look at her. She's cooperative throughout the boss fights, barking commands. These also barking commands. They're kind of like it's confusing. I don't know what that was. There was no real central authority. It was just kind of them shouting at each other. But as a team player, she's a good team player. She seems easy to work with, kind of like a real leader in some ways, but in other ways it was just kind of performative, fake to me, ways that didn't really make much sense. If you could just examine this photo, there's some things about this, or the way she's sitting that stand out. But for the most part, I think she's not, terribly written. However, there are some things that I'm noticing, like for instance, the way she is sitting. She sits like some kind of street criminal, mob boss, somebody leading the cartel, and maybe not even that. You have the head of state out here, like leaning back in the chair with a beer in her hand, legs spread wide open. This is supposed to be the president of the United States presenting herself to some merc, some guy that, saved her life essentially. Why would the head of state present themselves in this way in front of really anyone for that matter? I don't understand. It's not really what any leader around the entire world normally does. This just doesn't really fit. It's out of place. Even to an outsider, it's like, why would you even do that? People aren't looking at you. People are looking at you to present some kind of image, and it just doesn't seem congruent with what we normally see. It stands out. It's just odd. All right. Now, anyway, let's go back to how most characters, not even most characters, because the males aren't written like they have emotion. They have varying different levels of personality. They're expressive. They have flaws, most importantly. You can tell which characters were written with, you can tell that the male characters were written with flaws. Like they have clear issues that they can resolve. Um, some of them want to get some sort of redemption in the story. And this happens repeatedly. But however, I noticed a lot of the female characters, they're all written one dimensional, one way. They're all overly stoic, masculine. They act like a guy, essentially. If you take a look at this screenshot, does she look really like? a natural person that you would normally see out in the world? And if you do, who are they? Who are the people that normally present this kind of image? Once you answer that question, then before I tell you the answer, just think for a second. It's normally a man, right? You normally think of a guy that acts like this, or really, really, uh, you know, maybe a hard charging female, but those are like extremely rare. It's not something you just really naturally see. We're talking about the average environment. You can make the argument, oh, this isn't an average person, this isn't an average universe. But when all of the females act the same way, not all of them, but most of them, you have exceptions like Judy, you have exceptions like Eve, and maybe a few other female characters. But for the most part, a lot of them are written to be like guys, screaming, yelling. Hey, don't you do that, bro? You got her. She got the beer in her hand. Hey, take a beer, bro. Uh, man, take a seat, relax. That's how it seems. It's like performative. It's like the people who wrote this character or wrote a lot of the women characters. They wrote thinking they wrote them to try to be intimidating without actually understanding what it means to be intimidating. It's not just about presenting yourself in a stoic way, not just sitting there and acting masculine. That's not what's scary. I thought Hanako Arasaka was terrifying because I mean she seemed congruent with her character, like she was always planning something. You couldn't even really trust her throughout the story. I remember seeing her and Hellman, and the contrast was stark. Hellman had a personality, but he was nervous. V was also nervous. Me in my chair actively playing that scene, I was nervous because Hanako seemed very calculating. And she had that stoicism aura too, um, but it seemed kind of congruent with her character. This on my screen doesn't look congruent with what's really natural. You might see somebody like Hanako in real life inside their corporate world. I've seen plenty of those, but her, President Myers, absolutely not. Pan Am Palmer, she's like overly emotional, unstable, yelling all the time. I would say President Myers so far is better than Pan Am Palmer, but in general, it's like kind of crazy how it. Okay, even at the beginning of the game in Dogtown, you have somebody yelling at an NCPD officer, "Get down and get out of my way." Now, just picture who does that sound like in your head? What does that kind of person look like? Saying, "A, shut up, shut the f up, get down, get out of my way." That's how they're saying it. Really assertive, really aggressive. What do you imagine? You imagine a guy. You don't really imagine like a female doing that. But guess who it was? It was a female. It was just weird. Um, and again, like they just don't have any personality in the game. And again, Judy was like one of my favorite characters in the game because she had personality. But when you see a lot of other characters like President Myers, you don't really see much. You see like a bro. It's just weird to see it so often back to back like that. Why don't they have personalities? I don't understand. And like I said, Judy was one of my favorite characters because she acted like a natural person, a human being. This isn't human. This is weird. You have Yorinobu. At least he acts like a believable person. Johnny Silverhand, believable person. V, believable person. Jackie, believable person. Victor, believable. I'm only and then Rogue. You got Rogue. Oh my God, Rogue. She doesn't even smile. Doesn't talk. She's super assertive. It's like weird. I don't understand. I don't understand why they wrote the characters like this. And it's like my whole thing is like a lot of the female characters are written without having like any weakness whatsoever. Like they're all just essentially, like I said earlier, one dimensional. Like the reason why a lot of the male characters were so likable is because they had weaknesses. They seemed believable. They seemed like real people. But when you write characters like President Myers, uh, Rogue, Rogue was a weirdo, a total weirdo. It didn't even make sense. Um, a little bit of Hanako, but not really. She seems a lot more believable. And again, like there's, it's like the male characters can be written with flaws, and they're like phenomenal. But I don't know. I don't understand why the females don't get the same treatment. It's just odd to me. To me, I wouldn't even be surprised if Rogue was artificial intelligence. That's how weird she was to me. That's I almost believe she was fake. Like I'm just like, bro, there was one scene where she was like trying to sleep with X character, right? And she didn't smile. She didn't have any personality, bro. It was so weird. Where were they thinking when they wrote her? Is she AI? Is she fake? Man, I don't know. All I'm gonna say is, bro, a lot of the female characters are written like that, bro. I don't understand it. And then you have another female character, Misty, phenomenally written, like somebody you would naturally meet in the world. Believable, you know. There's nothing wrong with being feminine. I don't understand. You could be tough and feminine, but it's normally presented in a different way. It doesn't mean you have to look like a guy, is what I'm saying. I just don't understand. I don't get it. And it's funny, like she has a lot of depth, and she's also, a Polish character. She's cool. The studio's also Polish. I just wanted to make that connection.